everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So, 6 years after the original Final Destination came out, the second sequel came out, Final Destination 3. And when I watched it, I thought it was lazy and they just did the same thing as they had done in previous movies. But in this case, they didn't have nearly as good writing, nor as compelling characters as the last time. And they also lost a lot of the suspension and the tension that they actually had for the two previous movies. And we do know, of course, that the fourth movie was just trash. But I actually believe that the fifth movie, which I have reviewed earlier on this channel, I actually thought that movie actually is a bit of an underrated, very enjoyable movie. This movie falls sort of kind of in between it. They hadn't yet gotten to the point where it was just trashy entertainment, but it was not also, you know, the creeping tension that was the case with the two previous movies. It was somewhat kind of in between. I rewatched this movie for the purpose of this review, and I found it to be slightly better than when I watched it the last time, but it's just a little bit better. And let's find out today if you think you're going to like the third installment in this franchise. This is Final Destination 3. So we have a bunch of rowdy high school kids, you know, at this amusement park, and one of the things that they're going to do is to go on the big roller coaster. But Wendy, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, gets this premonition before they go on it that they are all going to die. There's going to be an accident. And she makes such a ruckus of the whole thing that, you know, she's thrown off the roller coaster together with a bunch of other people that also, you know, followed her. And as has been previous with the Final Destination movies, the accident happens exactly as she predicted that it was going to happen. And, you know, there's a lot of, you know, mourning, you know, in the school. They have lost a lot of their friends, and she has lost her boyfriend, and, you know, her sort of kind of friend, Kevin, lost his girlfriend. They're kind of stuck together now, and the thing is that everybody seems to want to move on, but she's very distorted by this, and she has to, you know, take care of her baby sister and stuff like that. But the thing is that Kevin, of course, gets online and finds the information about the flight 180, which is aka the event that happened in the first Final Destination movie. And he, you know, tells her that, you know, death is not done with us, and he's gonna come after us, and, you know, we're going to die in the order that you should have died on the roller coaster. Of course, she doesn't believe this, but then, you know, the accident with the bimbos in the tanning bed, which is a gruesome sequence, by the way. Maybe the most gruesome thing in the entirety of this entire franchise happens, and then she says, okay, we're going to die now unless we can stop, you know, death and, you know, stuff like that. So it is almost exactly the same story as it has been for the previous two movies. So it's a little bit lazy in that way. The only really, you know, new grip that they're doing for this movie is the uncertainty aspect, because they know most of the people that was on this roller coaster, but they don't know who everybody is. So they're gonna have to try to find the people that was on the roller coaster to be able, you know, to stop this thing. So it is, after that, just a, you know, sort of kind of entertaining tale about, you know, these accidents happening, and you're just sitting there guessing, I wonder what's going to kill that guy. I wonder what's going to kill this girl. I wonder what happens, you know, with the entirety in the gym. What is going to kill, you know, these people who hate the Boston Bruins? And it is sort of kind of entertaining, but it isn't quite as, you know, Wile E. Coyote levels of entertaining that would come in, you know, the fifth movie, which I think is a fascinatingly awesome, trashy little movie. The biggest problem I think this movie has is the fact that we have zero interesting characters. We don't care what happens to anybody in this movie. I did, you know, have sympathy for people in the fifth one, the second one, and especially the first one. But here, they are either horrendously bland or some of the worst douches I have ever seen. Freddy Cheese, or whatever his name was, has to be considered the worst asshole on this fucking planet. He was so unlikable and he was so annoying and he was such a complete asshat that I didn't mind a single second when that car engine totally trashed his entire face or head and everything else. So that is a problem. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead, while being the best actor in this movie, is not very good either, and you don't really care what's going to happen to either of these people, so that is a big problem. They kind of sort of fixed that in the two movies that came after this, by having so creative and fascinating and incredibly over the top accidents and deaths that you kind of go, oh my god, that was so fun and that was so insanely trashy, but it was kind of entertaining at the same time. They were still trying to do this sort of kind of suspense thing, but the writing simply isn't good enough, so they can't quite pull it off. But they don't waste any time. Stuff is always happening, and it is a pretty good pace in this movie. And a few of the deaths are very, very creative and had a lot of fun rambunctiousness to the whole thing. I think the only character I really did care about was Ian, and the sequence that they have with Ian in the warehouse, the sequence with the nail gun, is downright my favorite thing in the entire movie, because that at least provided some kind of psychological aspect to the whole thing, because the rest of the movie just moves along in this thing. Oh, we have to, warn this guy, about his impending doom. I don't care about my impending doom. And then he dies, and then they say, oh no, this happened. And nothing really has any stake in this movie, and I didn't like the ending either. But this is far more entertaining than any of these bad slashers or any of the, annoyingly bland and uninteresting movies about ghosts or spirits or demons or what have you. I much rather watch these movies than those movies. I can watch these over and over and over again, and they do have a fun entertainment value to them, but I cannot recommend this movie with a straight face. I would recommend the first one, I would recommend the second one, and I would recommend the fifth one. The fourth and the third one, you can easily skip them. But if you haven't seen them, you could see them, but there isn't anything new to discover here. The movie may be a little bit lazy, but it is never boring, and since stuff is happening all the time, you're constantly sort of kind of entertained, but comparing this thing to the good Final Destination movies doesn't do this movie any services whatsoever. I think that Final Destination 3 is an entertaining, trashy, yet kind of entertaining movie that has its perks, but ultimately is an inferior movie to the really good ones. I give this movie 40 points. I probably would have bumped this up even a little bit higher if it hadn't had such a lazy and uninteresting and such an ending that showed that they didn't really have the budget to do the ending they wanted to do. So the ending was kind of a downer for me. So far, the best ending of all the Final Destination movies is still the second one. So which one is your favorite of the Final Destination movies? Comment below, and I'll see you next time from, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.